and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today is going to be my most recent weekly wrap up. So the first book I read was Dead Reckoning by Charlaine Harris. This is the 11th book in the Sookie Stackhouse series. This is the 11th book. We had to read it for the Out of the Coffin read along that I am hosting with Ange over at Ange's Book Chatter. I'm not going to say a huge amount about this one, well, because we'll talk about it in our live show, but also it's the 11th book in a series, so anything at this stage is a spoiler. I really enjoyed this one. I thought that it was, as they all have been, so well written, and I really like, again, more of the exploration about our characters' mental health and how they deal with the fact that so much has happened. It's one of the things that I really enjoy in Charlaine Harris's writing, is I feel like everything has a consequence, whereas I feel a lot of other maybe fantasy or paranormal romance series that you might read, things happen and then like your characters are just over it, they've moved on, like it's, you know, next drama, next book, and nothing for that book really spills over or makes a massive impact. Whereas I feel like all throughout this series, these characters, like as much as they've been building relationships with each other and we've been building relationships with the characters, we can see how everything that has happened plot wise and everything, like all the trauma and tragedy, has really been taking a toll on these characters, and we've seen some very subtle changes, some quite drastic changes, and a lot of that came to fruition in this book. And I just think that it's something that Charlaine Harris is absolutely amazing at, is she'll call back to book one and, you know, she'll make reference to things in earlier books, and I just think that it's done so well. And you know, you really feel for these characters. We are all very, very attached. We're all going to be very, very upset when this read along is finished, because we feel like we know these people and they're our friends, and I've been enjoying chatting about them, hanging out with them and being in this world. And it can be hard to see some of the impact of earlier books having this effect on your friends and your family, you know, essentially. And I think it's just interesting that Charlaine Harris allows for everything to shape her characters, and you know, she'll throw in a wee curveball and she'll allow a drastic change here and there, but it's reinforced by everything that has happened. I just think it's done brilliantly. Her character work is superb. Like, it is one of the things that I think is done so brilliantly in here. The world building's fantastic, and everything is done so realistically that you could absolutely imagine vampires, werewolves, werepanthers, shifters, fairies, angels, demons, the lot existing, because she just builds it in, and there's so much politics and social commentary in here that it does feel real. But our character work is where she just surpasses everything. You know, every single character in here, you know them, like I know them. Like I would know anybody who lives on my street or who's a friend or who I've worked with. Like, I know these characters in the same way, and it's just cool to see where they have come, and I guess where they're going to go next. We've only 2 books left and we're all very upset about it. We haven't officially spoken about it, but a few of us do have copies of After Dead, which is like the wrap-up book, I guess, for after the series, because with it being such an expansive world, Charlaine Harris realised she couldn't give everybody an ending in the last book of the series, because it just wouldn't make sense. And she wrote a book called After Dead, and it's basically like 1 page per character, and she catches you up with, you know, what happened to them and how the series ended for them, no matter where they were or who they were in connection with. And we haven't any plans to read that, but I think that might be everybody who's taken part in the read-along's first book in January for like a wee final buddy read, because it's just been so brilliant. And then I read Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar. This has been on my wish list for actual years, from when I actually first started my BookTube channel. This has been on my wish list that long, because Olivia from Olivia Reads a Latte recommended it, and you know, it was like cheesy slasher horror, which is my kind of jam, so it's been on there for ages. And then I got this second hand and I was absolutely buzzing about it, could not wait to read it. It was like the first booky book that I wanted to pick up in October. So I did. This is basically a girl and her dad moved to a new town, and the town is a bit batshit. There's very much a divide between the older generation and the younger generation. The younger generation just kind of want to get the hell out of Dodge and, you know, move to bigger cities and no be stuck in this wee podunk town, and the older generation is very much of the mindset that the kids need to stay here, you know, they need to continue to work to keep the town up to date, make it relevant, make it somewhere that people want to travel, and make it like a social and cultural hotspot again, so that they can get like some tourism in and boost their economy. And you know, if all their youngsters bugger off, then it's not really going to work. So there's a very clear divide, and there was a lot of good social commentary in here around that. You know, how the older generation views the younger generation as being nothing but troublemakers and hooligans, and how the younger generation looks at the older generation as like Luddites when it comes to technology, and you know, just like raining on their parade, and they had it so much easier. And I thought that that was good. But basically, this town has a mascot called Friendo the clown, and Friendo starts chapping people to bits, and that's basically how the book goes. So this didn't live up to the hype for me, to be honest. I'll put that out there right now. I know that this gets so much love on BookTube, and everybody who I know who has read this just absolutely adored it, but it was a 3-star for me. We'll just get that out the bat right away. It was very middle of the road. I'll talk to you about what I liked and what I didn't. So I really liked the social commentary. We all know, I think that to have a really good horror, there needs to be some social commentary in there. Like, even the horror films that I enjoy, I feel have a lot of social commentary. All the horror novels that I enjoy have a lot of good social commentary. I think that horror is the perfect environment to do some really good social commentary and, you know, push it to the extremes. And so I liked that that was in here. I really liked some of the political chat, even though, like, obviously I would prefer it to be UK politics. This is set in America though, so it was like a wee bit Americanised, which is fine. It's just not my favourite when it comes to politics. I really enjoyed the gore and the killing that was in here. Like, every single scene where Friendo was on the page, like, I was hooked and I was like, this is amazing, like, I'm thoroughly loving this. And I think that the bits where people were getting hacked and killed were brilliantly written, but everything else in between I just felt was pretty dull and unnecessary. You meet so many characters in the beginning of this book, like, instantly, because our main character has obviously moved to this town. She's new, so loads of people are coming up to her and trying to get to know her, and she quite quickly falls in with this friend group, and there's like 5 or 6 of them, and they are no developed in any regard, in my opinion, and so they're basically just a name. And I found myself having to flick backwards and forwards a couple of times to remember who was who, because they all just sort of ran in together, and I really didn't enjoy that. I am such a character driven reader that I really need to feel like I connect to the characters, and I just didn't here. The character I probably liked the most was our main character's dad, and he has, you know, very little page time because he isn't a main character, so that was a bit pants. But I really didn't like how blended everybody was. I felt like nobody was properly developed or properly thought out, and you know, the twist in this I didn't really enjoy. I think that it would have been far creepier and far better. Well, I'm going to spoil it, right? So if you haven't read it or you want to read it, click away when the spoiler warning goes, because I'm just going to ruin the end and I can't say my point without ruining it. So the twist in this is that it's the adults that are killing off all the young people. They basically think that this generation of young people are a pure scourge on society, and so it would be better if they were just all dead, and if they killed them all and blame it on one of the other kids, then you know, then it'll be like a pure massacre hotspot, and it'll really drive some tourism, and all the sickos and weirdos who want to see murder sites and go to murder tours and stuff like that. I'm one of these sickos. They would want to go, and then that in itself would reboost the economy. You know, it would get a lot of publicity, loads of reporters would be coming to the town when this massacre hit, and basically just put the place back on the map. And like, well, I totally get that that makes sense, right, for the whole like adults like wanting to save the town's perspective. Like, I get it, I just don't feel like it was very realistic. I just don't see that happening, and I need my horror to feel like it could happen. That's what really gets me terrified, is like, God, I could totally see this. Like, and so that it just didn't do it for me, because I just found it very unbelievable, and I don't think that all these parents, the kids, would just be okay with their other parent friends and them killing their kids. I just don't see it at all. I think that was a pile of shite, to put it bluntly. And I didn't enjoy the fact that it wasn't just like a supernatural clown, because that's what I went into this expecting. I went into this thinking like, alright, okay, well, in the beginning there's, you know, hints about this cornfield, and you know, like the place burning down, and I thought maybe like Friendo was going to come back and start killing the kids to find out like who burnt down the cornfield, because he was like the mascot of it or something. And like, that to me would have been more realistic and more believable. Like, I'm all about the ghosty pish. Like, that feels like that could happen more realistic to me than all these parents choosing to kill their bairns. But just my opinion. I went on to read Clown in a Cornfield 2. Friendo Lives. I bought the second one before I had read the first one, to be honest. It's no often that I buy a new book, but I bought this new because I wanted the hardback edition to match my first hardback. And you know, I know that I was so lucky getting a second hand copy and a hardback edition of the first one, so I didn't want to wait and sleep on this and not get it. If I had read the first one before I had bought the second one, I probably wouldn't have bought it. To be honest, because the first one was just very middle of the road for me. Like, it was fun and I enjoyed reading it, but I probably wouldn't have continued the series. But because I bought it, I thought, well, I'll need to read it. Like, and if I didn't read it right away, I'm probably just not going to pick it up, and the completionist in me forced me to pick this up. So this one follows Quinn, who's your main character for the first book, like, I don't know, an undetermined amount of time after the massacre of the first one has happened. And she is new in college and trying to get away from everything that happened, but she can't move on, she can't get past it, and all of these people online are saying stuff about her, and you know, she ends up getting wrapped up in some conspiracy theories with people denying that this has ever happened. And then we go between spending time with Quinn to jumping back into the town, and we are seeing things through the eyes of somebody who was killed in the first massacre's wee sister, and she is, you know, living in the town after all that happened. And it's basically just her experience of it. You know, she watched her sister get murdered, and she wants to really find out what went on, why it went on, like, and get revenge for her sister, basically. So they're the two timelines that we follow. I actually enjoyed this one less than the first one, if I'm completely honest. The first one I felt like was quite fresh and quite original, in terms of like the setup and stuff, and like obviously getting to know the town, and so that was keeping me reading for a wee bit. I felt like this one, there was a lot of build up that was unnecessary, because we already had the previous book, so like I know this world, and I felt like the writing was pretty info dumpy, which I didn't enjoy, especially when it came to like Quinn specifically, not so much the new character. But I didn't know if it was written like that for people who hadn't picked up the first one, who maybe just wanted to pick up this one so that they could get like enough of the backstory to understand what was going on, or like if it was an attempt to push some character development on Quinn that we didn't really get in the first book, but I just really didn't enjoy that. It's just not my favourite writing style at all. Again, like the first one, it was okay. It was, you know, an easy, quick read, and I enjoyed all the bits where people were getting murdered. Again, I just didn't enjoy a lot of the other bits of the book. It wasn't for me. I didn't feel like this one had the same creepiness of the first one. The first one I felt like, because it was these towns divided, and you know, it was the adults doing this to the kids, it had like, I guess it was them not knowing who they could trust and who was going to kill them and who wasn't, that gave it this sort of a creepy edge, and I feel like I lost that entirely with this book. I really didn't, this one didn't make me feel anything in any way. Like, whereas at least the first one, I was a wee bit creeped out by it at times, and you know, obviously enjoyed the social commentary. This was just lacking. I did give this one a 3-star. Also, it was pretty middle of the road, but I just didn't love these books as much as I thought I was going to love these books. And I totally appreciate that I am like a horror gal, hardcore, and these are YA horror, but I thought I would still enjoy them. Like, I thought I would like them more than I did, because I read so much YA, and so, like, you know, I always feel like compared to high fantasy, YA fantasy really focuses on the characters more, and you really get like more character depth, more time with your character, whereas high fantasy is focusing on like the world and the magic system and that type of stuff. And so, like, if that same theory applied to traditional horror and YA horror, then I should have had a phenomenal time with this, and I didn't. I think that if you're looking for horror recommendations where the characters are absolutely top notch, just read David Sodergren, because these aren't it for me. I'm cancelled for BookTube now, but it's fine. No the first time, no the last. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!